basically probably close to a gallon of water in here. Here's the chicken bouillon. This is a 8-ounce deal. I know from working with it about how much I need. We're going to use almost all of this, and we're going to get it started that way. I don't want to overdo it. I've used probably, you know, 3/4 of it, 2/3 maybe. We're going to stir it in. It dissolves readily, easy. I've got it on high fire, and then we're just going to take it and just take a little taste. It should taste like chicken noodle soup without the noodles, and that's what it is right now. So that's what we're going to start with. If you were doing this, really the next step and a better way to do this, we're making seafood gumbo, would be to take the shrimp shells and the shrimp heads and water and start with a stock that way. But I don't have those this time, so we're going to go with this. All right, we'll be right back with the next one. Okay, well, I'm going to show you right quick the size of vegetables. Here's an onion, about a medium to large size. I like to cut them like this, all about 3/4 of the way through, and then come back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and then we're going to turn it this way and do the same thing. And this is going to be the dice and the size we're going to use. And we're going to do the onions this way, and we're going to use onion and celery, and the celery is going to be cut in a similar size. And we're going to use the one onion here and probably 3/4 or most of a stalk of celery. And as soon as these are cut, we're going to add both of them to our broth, which is on the fire, getting hot. We're going to bring it to a boil. Okay, be right back. It takes time to get one recipe done, you know. Okay, we're cutting the celery up. I just go through it, start at the butt end, and rinse it off good, and you know, just kind of rough chop it. We just want to be close, because most of this is going to fairly much be dissolved into the gumbo and the broth before we get through with the finished product. So you really aren't going to see this in there. It's for flavor. So we've got the celery, a little more celery than onion, but really I'm looking for about a 50-50. We're going to go with this to the broth right now. We're going to bring this to a boil. In the meantime, we're going to get our seasonings ready, and when this thing starts boiling and our roux is in the freezer and it gets cooled down, then we're going to add our roux to it. And then the last final step is we'll season it and add seafood. We'll be there. Okay, we've got some fresh sage right here. It's going to be part of my finishing spots for the gumbo. Normally I just buy the rub sage, but when I see something in the store that's fresh, that's an ingredient that I normally use, I always try to get it. So we're going to go ahead and mince this up and get it ready to put in at the very end. Okay, we've got the broth going here with the the chicken stock and the celery and the onion, and we've got our roux been in the freezer for a while. It's cooled down. It's not completely cold yet, but I think it's cool enough to work with. Kind of stirred it, and we're going to start to add it in here. Start with a little bit, and we're trying to get a color change. There we go. And at the same time, we don't want to get any lumps in there. We have a few now, but they'll cook out. We're going to bring a little more in. This is where we get character right here. And that ought to do it. That was probably about, maybe 5 tablespoons. The deal is that we're not using the roux as you would a roux to thicken a gravy or anything like that. We're doing it for the flavor and the character of it. It is going to give it a little bit of a little thickening agent, but this is a soup, so we're not looking for a gravy. Okay, our gumbo has got the roux in it, as you can see. The vegetables have now cooked down to where you can kind of see them in here, but they're going to cook out some more. And by the time we get our seafood, you won't see it. You see the beautiful color that we've got, and the gumbo's got its color now. It's got its flavors there, except for the seasoning. And then the next step, we've got some beautiful white shrimp that are already peeled and ready to go. We're going to put them in and cook them. And we've got about 2 or 3 pounds here. We're going to cook them, and it's going to add some flavor to this broth. And we're going to cook them just enough to get some seasoning and some flavor out of them. And we're going to take them back out. And then we're going to season our gumbo from there. And then we'll finish it up and put it all together. And we're getting ready to do our rice as well. If you see in the rice, I've got about, maybe a third of the pan. And follow me right here. We'll go ahead and put the water and get it ready. Now, I'm not really measuring it. This is just a jasmine rice. If you put about an inch of water over the top of the rice, it doesn't matter what size pan you're using, you're going to be good to go. We'll just set it here for now. We're going to bring this to a boil. Once it cooks down to the top of the rice, we'll turn it off, put a lid on it, let it steep, and it'll be done. Okay, these have been in about 2 or 3 minutes, and it's on high still. The gumbo hasn't come back to boil, but the shrimp are, really cooked right now perfectly. So I don't want to overcook them, so I'm going to put them out. And I'm using this. We call this a spider. It's going to take our vegetables out too, but that's okay because we're going to add them back in. Once we season the gumbo, we can add all this back in. But right now we're getting ready to do our seasoning, and I don't want the shrimp to overcook. We're going to let this cook a little longer. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do our seasoning, and then we'll add it all back together. And we'll finish our rice and then add our oysters, and we'll have shrimp and oyster gumbo. Yep. Okay, we've shut the gumbo off. It's through with the cooking process completely. We've got our vegetables and our shrimp over here, and what we got is our broth with our roux. We're going to start with paprika, okay? We've got probably about maybe 3 tablespoons worth. I'm going to stir that in. Okay, the next seasoning we're going to use is the fresh sage that we chopped up a little bit ago. We're going to use about maybe half of that. All right, and then we got some filet gumbo. We can get the lid on. Now, this is sassafras, and this will tend to make it thicker too the more you use. So you want to be careful with this. We want the flavor from it, and we can use it a little bit to thicken it, but we don't want to get it too thick or overdo it. So we use a little of that. A lot of times you can put this on the table too and let the customer season it themselves. And then for the final deal, to give it some heat, we're going to use some Cat5. This is my award-winning table seasoning, and it's got some fire to it. So we're going to go easy. All right. There you go. Hot. All right. Next, we're going to add our shrimp back in and our vegetables. And now you can see the final product here. I say final product. It's got the shrimp in it and the celery, and all of our seasonings are in. We've got our rice cooking over here. When we get ready to serve, we've got fresh oysters here from Aransas Bay. And instead of cooking those in there, we're going to actually put the fresh oysters in the cup or the bowl that we serve with right with the rice, and then pour the hot broth in on top of it. We don't want to cook these totally. We just want to kind of, heat up the edge and get some flavor out of it and have it for part of the seafood gumbo. So there you go. We'll be back with the final product. We started off with the flour and oil. We did the whole roux thing, got it to a nice dark roux. Refrigerated it, made our broth, added our vegetables to it. Got our shrimp in there, so we got a nice shrimp flavor. Pulled it back out. Seasoned, our broth with, we used the fresh sage, we used paprika, we used Cat5, of course, and one more. What was it? Filet gumbo. Put it in there, let it all marry up, gave it about 10 or 15 minutes, came back, did another taste test, ended up doubling all the seasonings that you saw me put in there the first time. Now we got a nice, bright, brilliant gumbo, okay? So we're going to serve it up. Here's our rice. Put a little rice in there, then we're going to come over here and get our fresh oysters. Put about 5 or 6 oysters in there. All right. And now we're going to serve our gumbo. you go. You got a championship seafood gumbo, and kind of for the finishing touch on that, for a little extra seasoning, I always leave a bottle of this right close to it because you're going to want some. And there you go. That concludes this segment. I hope you can do it at home and try it out. This is an excellent recipe. Give it a go. Cat5 all the way, baby.